Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our wellbeing meeting. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today. I'd also like to pay my respects to elders past and present. I am on Kurnai land. Let's get down to why we're here, the challenge of wellbeing in our school. And as a school, I think we need to be very clear about what we believe wellbeing is. It's really tricky. There actually isn't even a general consensus on how to write it, let alone how to create it within our schools. Quite often, wellbeing is seen from a deficit perspective, and interventions are implemented to fix a perceived problem. And in past schools, including ours, have implemented a range of wellbeing problems. We've had healthy schools, you can do it, mind matters, the list goes on and on. We work in Victoria under FISO 2.0 currently, and as part of FISO 2.0, wellbeing is defined as the development of the capabilities necessary to thrive, contribute, and respond positively to the changes and opportunities of life. In order to create good wellbeing amongst our student body, we need to create a safe environment, ensure students feel connected to their peers, school, and community, engage students in learning and helping them experience progress, ensure basic needs are met, and promote personal and social capabilities. Not dissimilar to that is the Australian Student Wellbeing Framework, which defines student wellbeing as a positive sense of self and belonging and the skills to make positive, healthy choices to support learning and achievement that's provided in a safe and accepting environment for all students. In order to achieve this, which is quite similar to what FISO is also asking, we need to adopt a whole school approach, focus on interventions with evidence of effectiveness, establish a dedicated leadership team, prepare the school and staff, provide meaningful engagement with families, and create meaningful opportunities for student voice and engagement. So, taking all these things into consideration, we need more than a program. We need a framework to make sure we're encompassing everything that leads to positive wellbeing for our kids, staff, and families. Just like Albert Einstein says there, frameworks are like climbing a mountain. The larger view encompasses rather than rejects the more restricted view. So we want to see all parts of wellbeing if we're going to make really serious positive impacts for our students, staff, and our families. While I was doing my research, I came across this and it really spoke to me. We need a fully integrated approach. There is a common acknowledgement that the old models of wellbeing, which focused on one aspect, like some of those programs we talked about earlier, all too often at the expense of others, are no longer valid or sustainable, which led me to this concept of flourishing. Flourishing is when our inner needs are in a state of cohesive balance and the demands of the external world enabling us to become aware and focus on what most interests us and brings us pleasure, to hone, express, and share our unique skills and capacities, and to functionally optimize our lives. I really also like this idea. If we are to be fully human, we must be active citizens helping to create a flourishing state. I think all schools want their children and their adults and their families to be fully human and flourishing, which led me to this flourishing model, which is the work of Wendy Elliott. It's based on the extension of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and it proposes that there are 7 core aspects of human flourishing: security, relationships, independence, engagement, fulfillment, contribution, and growth. So if we can make sure that our program is hitting on all of these things, then perhaps we're working on all the different areas that combine to create positive wellbeing for the children in our community, for the adults, and for indeed our entire community. And I think that's what I love most about this model, that it delineates between those 3 groups and actually gives us areas that we can work on for everybody together. I'd like you to know that I haven't just landed on flourishing without looking at other frameworks. I looked at the PERMA and the ASPIRE framework as well, and there are very clear connections between the 3. All of them are based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs and relate to positive emotions, relationships, and engagement in life. I think the real honest answer is the flourishing one just spoke to me the most. I would like to single out the CASTLE framework. CASTLE is a framework that we already use in our Victorian schools. And those 5 key competencies that are a part of CASTLE, the self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. We touch on all of those with our social and emotional learning. And for us, that might look like currently the Resilience Project and our Respect for Relationships teaching. Now, that doesn't mean we implement flourishing and we take out CASTLE. It means that the 2 work in together. CASTLE will form part of our flourishing network. The 2 cannot work separately. Why are we doing all of this? Well, it's really been brought to a head by the incidents that Ben has experienced recently in our school. In investigating what happened between Ben and Tom and the issues that fell out of that, even within our parent body and within our parent association, I think we could see that there were lots of areas in Ben, in particular, in Ben's schooling, where we weren't really addressing all of his areas of well-being. He was not flourishing; he was languishing in many different elements of those 7 key competencies that we saw. And I think what we as a school want to do is find a way that will allow Ben to flourish in our school community. And if we are hitting those competencies, then we can be assured that that is happening for Ben and for Ben's dad. So let's have a look at them in detail when it comes to Ben. Let's talk about security. At the moment, Ben is not feeling safe in our school environment. He's also not feeling safe in the classroom. We need to think about a designated area where Ben can eat his lunch and that he can be left alone. The drawings that we've seen of Ben that I just shown, the fact that he leaves the classroom so many times throughout the day, which we can see in his notes, means that he's not feeling safe in that environment. I think our first step is to create we need a safety plan for Ben so that he understands the parameters around the supports that are in place. Ben's dad needs to be a key part of that so he also understands what's going on and what we are doing to support his son. If Ben knows that we all know what's going on, it's been written down, and his dad knows the plan, he's going to feel safer because he can see that the adults around him have a plan. We need to have a look at Ben's relationships. And I guess we're looking at Ben, but we're talking about Ben's the microcosm for our entire school community. We need kids that are connected to each other. We need kids that have adults that they trust, that they can go to if they are in trouble. We need to think about who those people are for Ben, and we need to establish that student support group around Ben so he can actually see those people, and so can his dad, and we can start working together to foster those positive relationships. Part of those Castle frameworks still fits under this too. Building those relationships is the key of doing that is to teach kids those social and emotional capabilities. So that time is key. So is connection time between staff and students. And we need to communicate all of this, which is why that SSG group for Ben would be so important. Let's talk about Ben's independence. If Ben has an ES staff member sitting next to him at all times, he perhaps isn't feeling like he is independent and in control of his own learning. Through our SSG group, we need to make sure Ben has a really robust IEP that includes goals for him and that work to increase his independence and help him function more independently at school. So, for example, we could introduce some social scripts and other ways to communicate his feelings and his needs. We need to make sure that we have really good voice and agency strategies and procedures throughout our whole school. These things will help Ben and then help others. We need to make sure that Ben is engaged and wanting to come to school. Ben's dad notes that Ben is finding it difficult to come to school, and Ben's dad's finding it difficult to get him to school. He's not socially connected at school. Tom's targeted bullying of Ben, which we've been able to uncover through our investigations, will be making him feel even more disconnected. If Ben is aware that this has been discussed at school meetings and at parent meetings, that will be making him feel even less connected. As part of Ben's SSG and IEP work, I think we need a behaviour support plan around Ben that looks at ways of making him regulated so that he can stay in that classroom. The teacher notes around Ben suggest to us that he leaves the classroom multiple times throughout the day. If we can work on regulating him through strong social emotional learning and through strong behaviour support, hopefully he can remain connected and stay in his classroom, which will help him engage more fully with school and our school community. We want Ben to feel some fulfillment. And my wondering is, where is he meant to get that in his school day currently? I've shown you his artwork. His artwork is very powerful. Is there a way that we can allow him to express himself through art and drawing and encourage this? I think we can also work on his IEP goals so that they're SMART goals that are achievable for Ben, and that when he reaches those goals, we can celebrate them. That's why it's so important that we have those SSG meetings, that there are IEP goals, and that these things happen regularly so that he has that opportunity to be praised, and that his dad is there too to see that this is happening for him within our school. We also want our kids to feel like they're making a positive impact in our school community. And in all the documentation that I've seen, there is a distinct lack of anything that shows Ben is able to contribute or influence what's happening to him in a meaningful way. I'm wondering if we can give Ben a role or responsibility in the class that will help him foster a sense of contribution and pride to his role and to his place within our classroom. Is there another peer he can support? Is there a way he can work to support the teacher? We also need to ensure that our conflict resolution around the issues between he and Tom is strong and that Ben feels that he can express himself and contribute positively to improving his own social environment. Could Ben join a junior school council? Is there a club that he could start running, perhaps to do with drawing? Can we involve the parent association so we can involve them in this process as well? And can the students work in partnership with group to make their school a better place? I think if he's able to contribute positively, he might start feeling a bit more positive about his place in our school. And all of this leads to growth. We want our students to have opportunities to grow socially, emotionally, and academically. And in all the documentation that I've seen from Ben, there's a distinct lack of anything that shows any strategies in place that allow Ben to measure or celebrate any growth. And that is what we need to see in our school. Strategies for Ben we've already talked about, which are encompassed under all the other 7 points, are safety plans, SSGs, IEPs with SMART goals, a behaviour support plan. He needs greater voice and agency, perhaps structured play and responsibilities. If we put these things in place and then we have appropriate monitoring tools around them, then Ben and his dad and his classroom teachers and myself will be able to see growth in these areas, and then we can celebrate them. And there it is on the screen. The 7 different areas that work within this framework: security, relationship, independence, engagement, fulfillment, contribution, and growth. And all of the strategies that I've just listed that fit within that framework supports that we can easily place around Ben in our school that will help to lead to a greater sense of well-being for Ben. Now, this just won't work for Ben. This will work for all our students. This will work for our staff, and we can even see ways that we can make this work for our community. The symmetry of the frameworks, of the flourishing framework, aligned with what our department expectations are, is spectacular. All the things that I listed at the front, at the beginning of this presentation: whole school approaches, evidence-based, team-driven, meaningful engagement with families, safe environments, promoting personal and social capabilities. All of this frames part of that flourishing network and means that we are also working within the department expectations, which we live and work under as well. I really want to make the point: social and emotional learning forms part of this framework. It sits directly within it. And that is why the flourishing framework is what I feel suits our school environment best. All of these things together, what do we want to see? A happy, flourishing Ben. We're using Ben as our example, but what I want to see is happy, flourishing students, teachers, everybody in our school. I think if we use this framework, we can pull all of those things together and work together to create something really beautiful in our school. I'm very excited about working on this with all of you.